are a fire. This is Creed. Let's go ahead and say the Creed, Bible Creed. This is my Bible. This is my Bible. There are many like it, but this one is mine. Without my Bible, I am nothing. I must read it daily, believe it daily, and live it daily. My Bible is my weapon. My mind is the battlefield. My Bible contains the words of my Creator written to me. The Word is my life. My life is the Word. Without it, I am nothing. My Bible is living. I will learn its strengths, its parts, its pages, its warnings, and its heart. I will keep my Bible clean and ready. I will write its pages in my heart. We will become one. Before God, I bind myself to this creed. My Bible and I are defenders of my country, my family, and my church. We are masters of our enemy. We are servants of men. So be it until the return of Christ. Wow, what an amazing creed. You know, we are still learning it, so keep memorizing it, keep saying it. Also learning it, so we thank God for it. Let's jump right into the lesson. We've been talking about temperaments, and we have talked about the sanguine, and we've talked about the baseline of temperaments and the scriptural reference of temperaments. And today I want us to look at the different personalities and the other temperaments. And the main point about temperaments is this. There are two. You have a soulish man, you have the spirit man, and you have the natural man. The two that you have control of is the soulish man and the natural man. And you cannot master manhood before you master the natural man. You got to get a handle of the natural man. And the natural man has some things that you are just naturally born with. The Bible says, for all have sinned. You are born in sin. There's a temperament that moves through your family. There's a temperament that you are naturally born with. So make sure you look through that teaching, the foundation on the natural man and the soulish man, because that's what lays the foundation for what we are studying. So we've talked about the sanguine. We are going to talk about the choleric, the melancholy, and the phlegmatic. So we've said the sanguine is loud, emotional, friendly, happy, outgoing, talkative, enthusiastic, and we talked about the weaknesses of the sanguine also, being disorganized, hot-tempered, prone to unthankfulness, unfaithfulness, weak-willed, lack of discipline with their finances, can succeed one day and the next day they're not succeeding, and can end up being very poor. Even when you have good opportunities, you end up just being poor. And you're wondering what happened. You had great chances, great opportunities. People who love you are telling you, man, you had a great opportunity, but did nothing with it, and things like that, you know. And emotionally driven, moody. When it comes to spirituality, they are very driven by the flesh, carnal feelings of their spirituality. And all these things are things that I'm sharing with you so you can be able to master the natural man, because some of these things you never really overcome. Paul says, I crucify the flesh daily. So you crucify that person daily. They also make good evangelists, but sometimes very bad teachers, preachers, pastors. So you have to master those things and be able to accommodate those areas. Commitment, they lose interest quickly. Unfaithful, unwilled. In their home, they're untidy and dirty, messy house and things like that. And also we talked about relationships. It's very easy for them to come in and out of relationships. Nothing really grips, and it's important to realize that. So what are some of the strengths? We touched on this. I'm just going to fly through them. The sanguine is, the popular. They bring a lot of life, bring a lot of energy, bring a lot of joy and things like that, and are very personable. and very, very, when directed in the right direction, they're very driven. If you have a sanguine in a creative meeting, very great ideas. The challenge becomes implementing those ideas. I gave you the story of the meetings where you have planning meetings. We usually do our planning meetings every 3 months. And the sanguines in the meeting are always, we can do this, we can do this. Then the week to implement is where they have a challenge. So even you as a leader need to be able to balance those personalities and be able to do that. So let's talk a little bit about the choleric. That's where I want us to focus today, the choleric. We've talked about the sanguine. Now let's talk about the choleric. The choleric is someone who is practical. Practical. Choleric is also very willed, strong-willed, practical, and then also is very independent, self-sufficient, independent, very practical, finds it easy to make decisions by themselves. They can work independently. They are the type of person you put in a group, and if they're not in control, they'll find a way to become in control. They don't like, it's not even that they don't like, is they find a way to just get in control. They are also extroverts, and they thrive or they excel on activity. They excel on activity. When their view of life, the choleric views life as an activity. They want to do this, do that, do this. Very, very rarely do you have to stimulate a choleric. They are very strong self-starters. Very strong self-starters. Now, you know the sanguine sometimes, we said they're prone to depression. So the sanguine can get very low emotionally. The choleric doesn't need emotional boosters, emotional starters. They can self-start, they can go. And they rarely engage in aimless activities because they are very practical people. Very black and white, the choleric is. Very black and white. The stove is hot, so I will not touch it. While the sanguine, the stove is hot, so I will figure out how to touch it without burning. Oh, by the way, I don't believe you that the stove is hot, so I'm going to taste it myself. But it's not that way with the choleric. The choleric is very practical, and they don't do aimless things. If you have a little bit of choleric in you, that's where you lose patience with aimless things and things like that. Then also, cholerics are very good project managers because they are able to break complicated tasks into simple tasks. Do this, do that, do this, do that, do this, do that. And cholerics also find themselves taking firm stands and involved in issues like social justice and basically right and wrong. No gray line, just this is truth, stand with the truth. They face problems very head-on. Problems don't discourage them. Actually, problems encourage them to find solutions. Now, I know as you're watching this, you're probably thinking, I saw myself in the sanguine, and now I'm seeing myself in the choleric, Pastor. What is it? These personalities, you have a little bit of each of them, and most people actually dominate on two of them. So you got to find which are your two dominant ones. And of those two dominant ones, there is one that is more dominant than the others. There is one that is more dominant than the others. So cholerics also are perceived as natural-born leaders. And they're the ones who are, you see a choleric, they look like a good presidential candidate. They look like a strong leader. They seem to look for value in life. They are very dedicated, looking for value. They make good judges, they make good senators and things like that. Honest, open. When it comes to their finances, they succeed. And they achieve success through hard work. Basically, they don't mind putting in the work. Remember, the sanguine, their challenge is putting in the work. Many ideas, but putting in the work is a challenge. And the choleric is also a great provider. And he also doesn't want his family to be in need, wants to provide for them. Now, spiritually, the choleric is a pioneer, a builder, the apostle. Apostles are choleric. For example, in Scripture, Apostle Paul was a choleric, hardworking, very geared towards strength. The gap is this: spiritually, the choleric also tends to believe in their own strength, sometimes more than the strength of God. Getting them to relax and trust God is one of the hardest things for cholerics. Just getting them to trust God is one of the most challenging things for cholerics. Please make a note of that. They are very structured, very systematic, that they find strength in themselves and not in God. They find strength in themselves and not in God. Cholerics are very committed. Cholerics are very determined. Even when they are not gifted, they are very determined. It's very hard to find a choleric who gives up on something. They'll push something to the end, even if they have to do it in their own strength. So, let us look at some of the weaknesses of the choleric. So, the choleric, their weakest part is their emotions. They don't know how to connect people on an emotional level. They are weak in emotions. They are emotionally weak. They can't connect with people on an emotional level. You tell a choleric, care about someone, and they're like, well, I care. And it's like, no, show that you care. Like, well, I do. Like, don't you know I care? Choleric are very, they lack compassion. Cholerics can lack compassion. It is not a natural thing. They lack compassion. Be very mindful if you are choleric that you lack compassion because you're driven. They are very insensitive to the tears of others. You can cry in front of a choleric and they'll be like, you know what, get over it. You're having your worst day. Be like, shake it off, get back on the boat. They also find very little appreciation on beautiful things because cholerics are problem solvers. So someone could do their best work and the choleric will always find a problem in it. It's like you could have the best sunrise, but still something is wrong with that. The best pictures, but still something is wrong with that. And that can be very demotivating to your team, very demotivating to the people around you, very demotivating to the people that a choleric works with. Also, a choleric, when having a conversation, they already know what to say in the conversation. So it's very hard for a choleric to listen. Just listen. So if you're a choleric husband or wife, your spouse says, oh, you don't listen. You don't listen to me. And that's the cholericness that they're talking about, that you don't listen. And also, this is a serious weakness. They are prone to anger. Prone to anger. Prone to anger. Especially because when others disappoint them, they get very angry. Anger. Not like the sanguine. The sanguine is emotionally angry. The choleric literally gets so angry because others are not doing what they're supposed to do. Cholerics can also become extremely hostile. If you don't align with a choleric's vision, look at Paul. Paul was hostile even to other Christians. If you don't align with a choleric's vision, they can be very hostile and very hostile towards people. They also use hostility, strong outbursts, and wrath as a weapon. Like, I'm going to get them straight. I'm going to get them straight. Let me give them a piece of my mind. They don't go into conversations to listen. They don't go into conversations with empathy. They go into conversations with, I'm going to get them straight. And it can be very dangerous for the choleric, especially even dealing with relationships and marriage and things like that. A choleric must watch for angry outbursts. They say things they don't mean, say things they don't intend. They also could willingly inflict pain on others and enjoy it. Willingly inflict pain on others. Well, I will let you suffer and see that you need me. So let others suffer. Willingly inflict pain. You know, a choleric parent will let their child go without food and their bills not being paid so they can teach them a lesson. Willingly inflicting pain so that someone can learn and they enjoy it. The choleric leads through fear. A very important point. Cholerics lead through fear. Fear-based leadership. Also, they are, they blow the horn, they slam doors. Their emotions are manifested in who they are. Anyone who gets in their way, anyone who stands in their way, will bear a brunt of their wrath. It's like they're the ones who will stop in front of you to tell you about yourself and feel nothing. Cholerics are the ones who are like in the playing field. They'll take off their shirt. Let's go. Let's fight. Let's go. They don't back down from a fight. There are two things, fight or flight. Cholerics fight. Cholerics fight. They rarely run. They fight. Also, cholerics carry grudges for a long time. You do them wrong, they'll carry that grudge for a very long time. So if you're a choleric, you must learn to forgive. You must learn to let go. Learn to let go. Forgive. Let it be. Learn to forgive. Cholerics, they carry grudges for a long time. So, also, by the age of 40, this is important. By the age of 40, if cholerics have not achieved much or they keep struggling, they're usually prone to sicknesses. This is scientific research. By the age of 40, they have ulcers, alcoholism. It's because there's that drive in them that's not being fulfilled. So they, a lot of people drink when they are younger. Cholerics will carry those ungodly habits into their old age. So you find a 40-year-old choleric is an alcoholic. They have ulcers if they haven't found a way to serve God and get their temperaments under control. That is why I truly believe in the deliverance ministry. Because deliverance shows you how to walk out your salvation, walk it out. You know, when you're delivered, you get delivered from alcoholism, you must now learn how to walk it out. To never drink again, to never smoke again. But if you don't go through deliverance, those habits keep coming back. Like a choleric must pour themselves into their work. You don't give a choleric a little bit of work. They need to feel the effect of them working. They pour themselves into their work. Cholerics are very sarcastic also. Very sarcastic, make loose comments without caring about the emotions of others, and can take advantage of other people's insecurities. So we must be aware of that. They also leave a trail of people who they damaged mentally. Because working for, being married to, or living with a choleric is always a mental game. It's like we're always playing this mental game. And it's important for us to realize that when you're married to one, or when you're in the presence or working with a choleric, to realize that egos can get very fractured. Egos can get very fractured, and it's important to be mindful of that. Now, there are also lack of emotional connection makes people think they don't care. However, cholerics are just showing how they care in a different way. Also, cholerics, when it comes to affectionate things, once you're married, they think that's affectionate enough. Don't kiss in public. Don't hold hands. It's like, okay, we are married now. What do you want? It's like, that's how it is. When it comes to their emotions within the marriage, very difficult to understand. Very black and white. Has a problem with anger and has a problem with forgiveness. Two extremes. Also, they also, and this is a very interesting thing, cholerics also ask themselves often, so what have I done? What wrong did I do? Because they do not realize they are hurting people. They don't realize when they hurt people. So they're like, what have I done? And rarely think in terms of grace. So cholerics don't think grace. They think, well, we could always be better. We could always do better. Also, when it comes to their belief system, cholerics are very driven towards a system of religion. They want a system of religion. Cholerics are heavy on holiness. It's black or white, you're in or out. Actually, the life of Jesus, you can see a little bit of that. And I'm not saying Jesus was a choleric. Jesus was the second Adam, the final Adam, so he had a balance of all, because Jesus was compassionate. But you see a dogma. They're very also very dogmatic and don't consider the feelings of others. They also tend to be extremists, so radical extremists. And it's either yes or no with them. Now, let's get back to a little bit and focus now on relationships. What are the strengths? when you are in a relationship with a choleric, what do they bring? So building a team and relationships. Cholerics are take charge kind of people. You give them a project, they'll take charge and keep it going. Very commanding. Take charge and commanding. So they make great leaders. So you get into a relationship with them, they'll lead the family. They'll be strong, they'll make decisions. Also, they're very good to bring change. So cholerics shake things up. They won't let the wrong thing happen for too long. You know, if you're in a church and you want to change a department, get a choleric and put them in that department. They'll shake things up and put order and structure and do it quickly. Very energetic, also very outgoing. Sometimes you can mistake a choleric for a sanguine or a sanguine for a choleric. And actually, let me give you this word of advice. If you have sanguine habits and you want to move more towards the choleric, it's very easy. You just have to become more organized. You get the organization and the emotions in place, you can, and I say easy, but I mean it is an easier shift to become a choleric than become a melancholy. So the sanguine and the choleric are very closely related, but the choleric is very organized. Very organized. But the reason why they're organized is because they don't want anyone to mess up what they have structured. Organization is organization to them because organization represents structure. So, also, they bring a lot of organization. They bring a lot of energy and drive to many new things. But they can also be very bossy and domineering, which, depending on your personality, some people don't like that. They call the choleric, they are referred to, when they are bosses, they are referred to as micromanagers because they want things done the same way. They want things done how they should have been done, when they should have been done, in the way they should have been done. So they are considered micromanagers. So if you give a choleric a department, they will know everything about that department. And it's very hard for them to trust other leaders. Also, they are full of courage. They are full of courage and very, very driven to getting tasks done. Cholerics will stay and burn the midnight oil. They will work until the work is done. They find it very difficult to disconnect, which is good. When you're building the church, you need that. The work of God, in the kingdom of God, the reward for hard work is more work. When Jesus told his followers that you must be willing to give up house, you must be willing to give up family, you must be willing to give up wife, children. When Jesus said that, he was talking about these type of personalities. You must be willing to work hard. You know, in the story of the parables, one of them was a choleric, the other one was melancholy. The one with the little talents, parable of the talents. The one with the little was choleric. He could work hard. I took what you had and I multiplied. Sorry, the one with much, was choleric. The one with little, melancholy. I didn't do anything with what you gave me. So, my point is, they are very strong crusaders. Choleric crusader. Just think about that. Choleric crusader. Choleric crusader. They'll accomplish much while they are young. They'll move with speed. They'll get things built. They'll get things going. They're crusaders. One of the strongest cholerics who's a leader today, but has managed to blend it, is Mike Zognaba, the creator of the social media network, Facebook. But he's learned how to balance it, you know. As leaders, I know very many leaders who learn these lessons that I'm teaching you and spend a lot of money to be taught these lessons, and then they learn how to control their personalities. Look at the founder of Amazon. a very strong choleric. But if you look at his life, he has learned how to shape his life. He even works out. He even now has shaped his life to be more empathetic. But if you look through history, that's not how he always was. He was always very driven. We're going to get results. We're going to do this. And one day he just started shifting. It takes a lot of coaching. It takes a lot of shifting. Now we as believers have the Spirit of God to help us with these things. We have the Spirit of God. High productivity. You want to be productive? You have areas you want to produce? Put a choleric leader. You will see results. Also, they are very open and very honest. Cholerics have nothing to hide. A lot of people think they have things to hide, but cholerics have nothing to hide. They are very open, very transparent. Here is what I want. Here is what the result should be. And they use a lot of words of excellence, very driven towards excellence. One of the strongest cholerics in the Bible is King Solomon. He was able to do much at a young age because he was a choleric. His father, David, was a sanguine. David was flashy, flamboyant. But Solomon was a choleric. So being able to do that, a very strong disciplinary person, and they bring a lot of discipline. And it's important to realize that. Now, in relationships, disadvantages, self-centeredness. Also, we've talked about anger, being unpopular. They can be mean in a relationship. They can also be, they can use others for their own gain. Let me tell you how you notice if you're married to a choleric wife. A choleric wife or husband uses sex to manipulate the relationship. And a choleric spouse takes the children as a weapon. So if you have I have a mother of my daughter who's not my wife. They call them baby mamas. She'll use the child as a weapon when they are cholerics. Cholerics use their children as weapons. Cholerics use sex as weapons. If you do this, you get this. If this happens, you get this. And that's very demonic. It's actually witchcraft to do that as people of the faith. So you must pray against that and stand against it in marriage. Now, when Eve was cursed in the garden, she was told you will desire to rule over your husband. Do you know what that means? When Eve is a choleric, Eve will desire to rule over Adam. Adam cannot move. Adam cannot do anything. Eve is the boss. And if Adam doesn't line up, if Adam doesn't line up, Adam is not getting sex. Adam is not getting anything from Eve. And by the way, more often than not, Eve or the wife makes more money because cholerics make money, make a lot of it. So you have a choleric spouse, makes more money and uses it to manipulate. If you are a choleric, you must be very careful not to manipulate relationships with money. Very, very careful, because God doesn't like it. Usually in the husband and wife situation, the one who makes more money and is a choleric, if they are not spiritually disciplined, they end up using it to manipulate the relationship. Be very mindful. Now, cholerics also are very pleasing to others in authority and not to subordinates. So you'll find a choleric wife loves their pastor more than they love their husband. It's the truth. A choleric worker respects their husband more than they respect their wives. Literally, they would be on the phone with their wife and say, hey, I gotta get off. My boss is calling. And say, what do you expect? He's my boss. And it's just who they are. Hot tempers and forgiveness, we've talked about that. Very unemotionally involved. And if, here is something. Let's say you're in a relationship with a choleric and you happen to dump them or the relationship breaks up. A choleric will make sure that you know that you needed them. Cholerics will go on social media and put their nice pictures with their nice body. When they go on a date, they'll take a picture with a date and be like, my new boyfriend. If they used to pay your bills, they'll cancel your bills. They will manipulate you emotionally. Or if you're the choleric, you manipulate others emotionally so as to show them you needed them. Now, here is where you begin allowing sin to come in. And we must be very careful that we do not do these things. Lastly, cholerics are they are not domesticated. Cholerics don't stay home. Cholerics don't enjoy being at home. Cholerics want to be outside. They want to go to the mountain. They want to conquer something. They want to take over something. Now, why did I talk about the choleric after the sanguine? Because a sanguine is an undisciplined choleric. If you get disciplined, the sanguine and the choleric can make a great person and great temperaments. Go back and watch the tapes about both personalities and you can find a common ground in both of them. I truly hope you've been blessed. In the next tape, we're going to be talking about the melancholy and the phlegmatic. God bless you. Alone a flame, together a fire. Alone a soldier, together an army.